Night of Racing Championship format. As we said before, it is the East Coast Championship out here at Empire Speedway.
Well, Larry Neal is in heat number 3 also, Steve, so I don't know, because he's at the starting.
Well, we'll see who they put out here.
Yeah.
We had a good first race up until the time the gate went up, and Howie Oakton having his problems, the bike out from under him. Again, he is the defending champion, and he really has his work cut out for him as we move on through the night.
An interesting thing happened in another race. I didn't think the camera caught it, but John Dimitri running second just caught a little too much traction or whatever going in turn 1 and crossed the pipes with both wheels, the inside pipe, and that constitutes a disqualification unless you do that to avoid a fallen rider. So I don't know if the referee saw that or what, but he technically should be disqualified from second position here. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, we're definitely bringing out the first heat again. We see John Lewis, Howie Oakton, Ted Pierce, and Larry Neal. This was the first race of the evening that we did not get off, and we're going to try it again right now and see if Howie can keep it online and on track. On the inside will be John Lewis. Will line up in our same slots as before. Howie Oakton lined up in the second spot, I do believe, and Larry Neal in the third. On the outside will be the young Teddy Pierce. Teddy won a Division II final here a couple of weeks ago, and he looks pretty good for a young rider.
Yeah, he was pretty happy about that.
Well, we moved Howie Oakton back to the 10-yard line. You didn't see him right there as they went off the gate. John Lewis is your early leader in heat number 1.
Yeah.
And Larry Neal.
Yeah, tough break for Larry there. I don't know. His bike just stopped. I don't know what it is.
Well, John Lewis continues on, oblivious to the problem behind him. Howie Oakton trying to make himself some ground by now. Somebody at number 4.
Yeah, Howie's catching up quite well here. He's, I tell you, John doesn't have that much breathing room. John's on a Westlake, a 4-valve Westlake, which is an extremely fast, powerful motorcycle, and Howie's doing real well to stay this close to him. If Howie didn't have that 10-yard handicap, boy, it could be a lot closer.
Out of the final turn, checkered flag, and John Lewis will take the win in heat number 1.
Well, Howie got 2 points out of that anyway, so that's a lot better than what could have happened if he didn't race. Larry Neal is speculating here a little bit, Steve. The bikes are equipped with a dead man switch. In other words, if you it's hooked up to either your jacket or your wrist, and sometimes if if you hit a bump or something, your hand will jerk and it'll pull the ball out of the box, which is the kill switch situation, and the bike will stop, and there's nothing you can do. It's a safety feature built into the bike, so if the bike does get away and it does come up into the wall, that the motor will shut itself off, and that might have been what happened to Larry there, because the bike just bumped off now with no problem.
There's also a fuel switch, isn't there, on these bikes, and if you don't turn it on when you get out of the pit, sometimes you can cause yourself some problems.
Right. Yeah, the Westlake motorcycles use a box, electrical box for the spark, and you have to charge them up before every race, and you have to turn the switch on. Yeah, when I made the transaction from a Jawa to a Westlake, the Jawa has a magneto, so it's always on. You push it, you run. But with the Westlakes, you have to turn the switch on, and it caught me a few times pushing with the switch off, wondering why it wouldn't start. And Larry's going to stay out because he's in the 3rd heat, which we're into the 3rd heat now.
He's talking it over with the promoter. I assume that he's got enough fuel in the bike. Again, they aren't designed to go any more than, what, 10 or 12 laps?
Well, he only took 1 or 2 laps there, so he's okay with fuel.
We're ready for heat number 3. We're looking at Dale Wakefield, Larry Neal back out, John Crash Silver. Dale Wakefield and Larry Neal together in turn number 2. Dale takes quite a spill.
3 riders now. Looks like Dale got caught with the foot peg there from John Tilton's bike, which is...
Well, he took quite a roll there into turn number 2. And he is still down on the track. John Tilton kind of cut up on the back end of that accident, and not much of any place to go. That is always a problem with bikes with no brakes, and we will tell people right now that these Speedway motorcycles do not have brakes.
Dale is still down there. That's Larry Neal's girlfriend there looking at him. It's a very tight group of individuals, this race group here, and it doesn't matter. Dale's up. That's good. He's from down around my neck of the woods in New Jersey, so.
Dale Wakefield, bike number 76. He is up, around, and looking at the bike. It didn't look at it. He went down low, and he just kind of rolled over a couple of times.
Well, what he did was, Steve, he hooked up, hit the front wheel and went off the high side, and that's what we talked about in some earlier broadcasts,
right.
That if you go off the high side, it's a lot more harmful to the bike and your body. So, but it was a situation where he was fighting for the groove, the inside line, and him and Steve, Larry Neal just got hooked up, and Dale got the worst end of it.
Well, Larry's looking at his bike right now. They're kind of rolling it backwards to see how it's going, and we might see heat number 4 come out here and stage that race while we let both Larry and Dale Wakefield go back into the pits and look over their bikes. When you're fighting for the groove and you're all together like that, it is tough to stay apart sometimes.
It certainly is. And Tilton had nowhere to go. I don't even think if he had brakes, he could have avoided that because Dale was right in front of him. But yeah, we are bringing out heat number 4 because here comes Frank Watson for his first ride.
Frank Watson, first ride of the night, and he is a man to be watching all through the evening. We did a show about 2 weeks ago. Frank took just about everything in sight. He was a man to beat. He will be a man to beat this evening. He was the track champion out here at Empire Speedway last year about this time, and he'll be racing in this race against bike number 71, Lynn Bennett. Dan Painter will be back out on bike number 4, and bike number 9, Kevin Collins. Kevin, a man I've seen race out here just once before.
Well, Bobby Robinson's in this one also, Steve. He's from my era. We raced together a lot, and Bob's one heck of a competitor and a really, really nice person. He also is involved in the Robinson cycle. He's one of Norm's brothers that did some of the commentary here earlier, and they're just fierce competitors, and Bobby was never as fast as Norm, but he should be in there. He'll get tired though, like I did last week when
I'm glad you corrected me on that. I had 2 bike 71s on the program, and again, Rob Robertson will be out on bike number 71. Lynn Bennett is 71X. Kind of hard to tell. Rob Robertson in the black leathers.
Yeah. Bobby drew the outside position. I think he'd probably be just as well because he wouldn't be interested in dicing right down on the groove here in his first race. He'll probably just ride around. He should finish second.
And it's Frank Watson early out of the gate. He's the man to beat. Not much competition in this heat number 4. Frank Watson's going to have an easy win this time around. Lifts up the tire. Quite a spectacular rider, this Frank Watson.
Frank's riding extremely smooth. The track is to his liking. The inside is smooth. Frank's going to be hard to beat tonight.
Frank Watson running second right now. Kevin Collins on bike number 9, and Rob Robertson on bike 71. Following Frank Watson around for his final lap, 4 turns, and an easy ride. The tire comes up again out of turn number 2. He makes it look so easy. Checkered flag, Frank Watson.
Well, that was an important race for Frank, naturally to win, but also to set a precedence for the rest of the riders that he is on tonight. His bike is running, he's running, and he's ready to do business tonight. So it was an impressive win. He didn't have to go that fast to win naturally, but it's a sight, like we talked about earlier, and the fact that he won so easily and looked so fast gives the other riders something to think about, and they're saying, geez, Frank's really on tonight. I wonder if I can beat him. And when you get the other riders thinking about that, then you're in trouble.
Watching Frank Watson ride, a lot of times it's an exercise in form for speedway riding because he looks so smooth into the corners. He lays that body back, and he keeps a tighter line around the turn than almost anybody I've seen race out here.
Yeah, he's extremely smooth. He's been racing for about 5 or 6 years now, I guess, and we had a race last year with some California riders, which are extremely fast and smooth, and Frank hung right in there with him and did extremely well with him. I think he ended up even winning one of the heat races, and he can race with the best of them anywhere in the country, in the East Coast, West Coast, or whatever. And you know, him being here every Saturday night and racing at the track, he just has a real good feel for the racetrack. He knows the tire pressure he needs to put in the tire and the gearing. And he just got the track wired. He's got it dialed right in.
Well, Frank Watson picks up 3 points for the win in heat number 4. We still have heat number 3 to restage because we had the accident in turn number 2. And Frank Watson has set himself up for a man to beat tonight at Empire Speedway in Brewerton. And we are back to live action. Here we are right on the track at this very moment. Heat number 5. John Lewis, Doug Hood, John Dimitro, and Bob Robinson. Heat number 5. John Dimitro has the early lead.
I tell you, if John stays on the pipe, John Dimitri, that is, like he's been doing the last couple of weeks, he's going to give John Lewis fits. I tell you, right from the very first race when Howie caught up to John Lewis isn't riding to the max tonight. I don't know what his problem is. He's not going as fast as I know he can go.
Well, Well, John Lewis was injured in Canada a couple of weeks ago. They were racing the Canadian Championship up there.
Oh, and maybe he has suffered from some of the effects there. Although his style looks all right, Steve. I mean, he doesn't look like he's favoring anything. You know, I can't see where maybe his knee is bothering him or whatever. Not taking anything away from John Dimitri. He's riding an extremely good race.
And John Dimitri takes the win in heat number 5. He'll pick up 3 points for heat number 5. John Lewis, disappointed, I know, but he will finish with 2 points for the second place finish.
John, you know, it was funny. John Dimitri could never run the inside. He talked to me about it, Norm, and tried to get the technique for the inside riding. It's just something that you have to do. And it was a week or two ago, he was out here, and he just, you know, happened to find the right combination and learn how to ride the groove. And now he's superb on the groove. He's just doing 100%.
We were commenting on his improvement a couple of weeks ago as he's gone through, and I've seen him ride since last year. He is a much improved rider. Is there just a moment in which that change takes place, or is it an evolution of time?
Well, it's the time factor. You need time on the track naturally, but it's sometimes you just, you know, he might even do it by accident one night and figure out how to do it from there. You know, it's like anything. Sometimes the harder you try to, you know, the worse you are at it. And I'm really happy for John because he's a real nice person, a good competitor, and he comes all the way from Canada. So we have another Canadian here the first time, I guess, John Keogh, number 32.
Well, we've got heat number 6 up right now. Howie Oakton's backed out, our defending champion, Lynn Bennett, Pat Cliff, and blank number 32, John Kehoe. John Kehoe, another Canadian.
Yeah, he did real good the last team races we had, and he's getting the knack of the track also. They're coming off their national. Last week was their big Canadian national. Howie got a good start on that.
Well, that's what Howie needs tonight if he's going to get some points and find himself in the chase in the 4 finalists of the evening.
Well, it was a combination of getting a good start, Steve, and getting a good roll. He actually caught the starter and got a good roll on the starter, which is always nice to do, and he's riding really nice. Just maintain. I tell you, you know, in second spot, I don't know if we're watching it, second spot, Pat Cliff, though, he's come a long way also. He, you know, he's a second division rider, and now he's doing extremely well. His first division scratch program, and he's not that far behind Howie. And then we have John Keogh in third.
Watching Howie Oakton on his final lap as he comes out of turn number 3, a real smooth ride. John Keogh not doing as well as I would have thought in this race. Pat Cliff out wide out of turn number 4, but he will take second. We'll give Howie Oakton 3 points for the win in heat number 6. Pat Cliff picks up 2 points.
Yeah, that's good for Pat Cliff because he's not actually a contender here. He's a second division rider, and he's getting a shot tonight to ride with the first division boys. And
well, I don't know if we had the shot, but early on in the race, lap number 2, as John Kehoe was going into turn number 1, he would reach down between the handlebars, down low, and twiddled something. I don't know on the
yeah, I
frame
saw
of
him
the
do that too, Steve. I don't know what that was. He uses an electrical box to give spark to his motorcycle too, but it's an on-off switch. It's not something that he'd have to switch on or off or fiddle with. I don't know what he was doing there.
Maybe he was pounding on it to get it to work.
Yeah, well maybe, you know, he was reaching down in the area of the gas tank too. He might have had the petcocks turned off in the gas tank and he was reaching on to turn on the fuel. That happens sometimes. This should be a good one. We got Frank, and this is the first test for Frank here with Spider-Man, Dale Wakefield. See how he handles that crash from that other race.
And our final rider is bike number 48, George Lewis.
Yeah.
Mike Bloom will line up on the inside. George runs the second slot.
This will be a good one because Spider-Man's on the inside, Frank's on the outside. Well, one heck of a start by Frank.
It was a good start, right out of the line, and that start is so important out of the gate as Frank Watson takes the other lead with Mike Bloom right behind him.
He's hanging tough. I tell you, Frank can't afford to make a mistake here. He's no more than a half a bike, maybe a bike behind him.
A very nice race as we move out of turn number 2. Heat number 7. Frank Watson, your leader. Mike Spider-Man Bloom is running second and falling back. 1 lap to go. Frank Watson and Mike Bloom not able to make up the distance.
No, Frank's got this one, so he's got a perfect score here. And I tell you, you made it look easy, Steve. He got, I tell you, the whole race was in the first 30, 40 feet out of the gate there. He was at number 4. and he got one heck of a jump from 4. I tell you, interesting here, the track is still wet, okay? Later on in the evening, let's see if I'm right, the outside positions will be less and less effective. Frank got a good shot out of the gate, but he also used the wetness of the track on the outside to drive around Spider-Man, which was on the inside. And later on in the evening, the track will dry out, and he won't be able to get as much of a drive on the outside as he did in this heat race right here. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, we'll see how it shapes up, because we have had some pretty wet weather up here. I know you come in from New Jersey, but it was raining for a lot of yesterday, off and on, and it's been very humid today. So it may take a while for this track to dry out.
Well, you can see it's real deep. When somebody goes out, you know, right off the shiny part on your TV there, goes out a little bit from the shiny portion. It's probably maybe 2.5, 3 inches deep, and it's wet. If it's deep and it's not wet, then you still have no traction. But being deep and with the moisture in it, there's a substance to it, and you can get a drive. So,
well, I think we're setting up for heat number 8 right now. Again, we're racing 16 heats. We'll take the top point getters, theoretically the top 4 point getters for the night's event, I should say, and we'll move into 4 final races. A lot of times what happens in a racing like this, you end up 16 races and you have a tie for like the 4th spot.
Right, we have to have runoffs. That it's very possible that that's happened from time to time. And I tell you, that's a precious situation. I've been in a few of them. I think it was my first 2 nationals down in Binghamton, New York. One of the ones that Norm Robinson had won. As a matter of fact, you race all day or all night Saturday night, and it came down to a runoff for 5 of us, and they only, I think, took 1, maybe 2. And, you know, those 3 guys were done for the weekend. And, boy, talking about pressure. And fortunately, both times I was on a positive note of the runoffs and made Sunday's running. And it seemed I always ran better on Sunday with less pressure. Saturday night, you just seem to make a lot of mistakes under pressure. But I'll tell you, the runoffs are more nerve-wracking than anything.
Well, we'll see if we have some runoffs tonight as we get into a tie-breaking situation later on in the evening. And the pressure, if we're talking pressure, is on Howie Oakton right now, bike number 50, because he is the defending champion out here. Let me set the rest of the field for heat number 8. Howie Oakton, bike number 50 on the inside line. He will have a good shot into turn number 1. Larry Neal, bike number 47. Fred Legault. Kevin Collins finishes out the field.
This will be a good test for Fred.
Howie.
Oh, jeez. 2 riders down, restart.
We've got Freddie Legault and Kevin Collins down in turn number 2.
I don't know why Kevin fell.
I was wondering about that.
Fred, this track will favor Fred Legault. He runs real well on the outside.
Well, maybe Kevin fell out of sympathy for his fellow rider.
Yeah, well.
He might not have known what was going on as he came out of turn number 2 and found somebody laying in front of him, and that can cause some problems if you're not quite ready for it.
Yeah, you take your attention off what you're doing and you look at somebody else. I tell you, this will be a real test for the outside of the track, because Fred will run the outside. He likes the outside, and that's good. He's going to give Howie a run. Howie's strictly an inside rider because of his technique. It's an inside situation, and the bike he's running, the 2-valve Jawa motorcycle is also a little less powerful than some of the 4 valves, and therefore his fast way around is the inside.
You're looking at Fred Legault right now, and it looks like he's trying to do some fork work there.
Yeah, that goes back to our when we looked at the bike, Steve. They're very, very flimsy, and just a little slide out like that Fred did will bend the forks.
This is Kevin Collins, and he's going to fire it back up.
Yeah, Fred's just trying to straighten the forks a little bit. They're like a bicycle. When you're a little kid, you fall down and twist your wheel. It's not much more substantial than a bicycle.
Well, the front wheel is really more to guide you around the turn. You send it out right to turn left.
That's right.
When you send the back end around.
You do the whole turn with the rear wheel, the amount of spin, and the front wheel is just there to keep the forks from dragging, basically.
Well, we'll see how Fred Legault does on the outside line, and we've got Howie Oakton lining up in the first slot at the gate, which is really the best position to be in, and the position I'm sure he's happy to have, at least for this race, because Fred is going to really put some pressure on him here. We're out at Empire Speedway for the East Coast Championships. We're in heat number 8 right now. The only man to score perfect victories in all his heat races so far has been Frank Watson on bike number 20. We're ready for heat number 8 as they come to the line. Starter looks them over, just about ready to go. They'll put their eye on the starting line, and Fred Legault trying to get the jump.
Howie, if he gets another roll, he's going to be tough to beat. Oh, he got it again. He got a roll again. Howie, 2 in a row. Boy, Well, he's got the starter figured out tonight. He got 2 rolling starts in a row, and anytime you can do that, more power to you.
Well, it only took that one jump because he's quite a ways in front of Fred McGough as he works in turn number 2.
Well, looks like Fred's having trouble now. I bet Fred forgot to turn on his fuel, Steve, because that's the area he's reaching down to the fuel tank.
A costly mistake as he falls back to third. Howie Oakins, your leader.
Now Larry Neal's getting around him. That's a tough break for Fred. Howie's making it look easy. He's right down the pipe.
Howie Oakins on his final lap. All alone. He looks on turn number 2. Found a slippery spot in turn number 1 there and had a little problem. Real smooth through the other end of the track as he comes across the start-finish line, the checkered flag, and the win. 3 points for Howie Oakins.
It's a tough.
And we'll be right back for more racing action from Empire Speedway in Brewerton, the East Coast Championships, right after this.
Fred Sports Motors, Yamaha City, your Yamaha dealer of Central New York. Now celebrating our 20th anniversary. We've expanded our Erie Boulevard showroom to include over 100 motorcycles on display. We've got the bike you crave at a price you'll love. Yamaha, engineered for performance, designed for attention. Also mopeds and 3-wheelers, plus free riding lessons for buyers. Check out our selection at Fred Sports Motors, Erie Boulevard East, and Yamaha City, Brewerton Road, Mattydale, across from Strike and Spare Lanes.
Okay, here we go.
Heat number 9, ready to get underway at Empire Speedway, our East Coast Championships. We got some point totals here for the early part of the racing. Frank Watson is your early leader, and he is the only man right now with a perfect score in his first 2 heats. 6 points. Mike Spider-Man Bloom, who lost to Frank in his last heat race, with 5 points. John Dimitro, Dimitri, whichever you want to, the Canadian, is 5 points right now, and he's tied with second with Mike Bloom, and John Lewis also has 5 points. Out for this race, Kevin Collins, we've got John Dimitri, Ted Pierce, and Doug Hood.
Well, I tell you, Dimitri's got a wire tonight. He's going real fast.
Well, Dimitri is your leader right now. We've got a bike down in turn number 2. It's Dimitri, Pierce, and Kevin Collins.
Hey, Teddy Pierce there is not too far behind him. He's giving him a run for his money. You know, Teddy's a 2nd division rider. He comes from Ohio. He's Jimmy Pierce's nephew. And he's limited with the amount of riding time that he has to put in also. So he's doing real well.
Ted Pierce having a fine ride, a little wider than John Dimitri in the turns. As we come out of turn number 3, John Dimitri will take the win if nothing happens here out of turn number 4. The checkered flag and the win for John Dimitri, the Canadian. With Teddy Pierce second, he'll pick up 2, and he is happy with that performance as he sends the left arm up in sort of a victory salute, if you can have one for second place.
You interviewed Teddy after one of his 2nd division wins, didn't you, Steve?
Yes, I did. He was a very excited fellow because it was the first time I had seen him out here racing. And I asked him what he thought it was like to be 15 years old and whether he'd enjoy having his driver's license and all that. He is a heck of a rider, and he comes from a long line of Speedway riders.
Well, his dad and I raced together, and his dad's brother, Jimmy Pierce. In fact, he's riding Jimmy's bike. I don't know where Jimmy's been the last couple of weeks.
Wearing George Laser's leathers, too.
Yeah. He's riding Jimmy's 4-valve. He's serious about this race tonight. It'll look good on his resume for sponsorship next year if he can put down a high placing in the East Coast Championship. So he's riding Jimmy's 4-valve. So that's a big break for him. I don't know what the deal is.
We've got the lineup out here for heat number 10. Heat number 10 will not see John Tilden. John had the accident in turn number 2. I went down with Freddie Legault, I do believe, earlier in the evening.
Yeah, and I was talking to him at the break, and he bent his forks bad enough where they can't be straightened, and also the front wheel is twisted pretty bad. So I saw John roaming around in the pits earlier with a beer, so I guess he's going to enjoy the races from the stands. Well, it's a tough break because he was a contender. I think he could have done well.
And we'll serve up Doug Hood as a replacement for John Tilden. The rest of the field, John Lewis, John Kehoe, and Mike Spider-Man Bloom. They are ready to go, ready and rearing.
Yep.
Watch for Mike Bloom on the outside. Is he moving back to try and...
Yes. Yeah, well, that's just a head trip, Steve. He's moving back to collect his thoughts and maybe put some pressure on the other riders. I know he's not happy with his fourth spot here. I was talking to him earlier, so...
Well, he's going to have to get a fast jump out to beat John Lewis in turn number 1, and they are side by side, John Lewis and Mike Bloom. Mike Bloom gets the shot as they work out at turn number 3.
He went around John Lewis real nice. I tell you, Theo, he's got it together now. His bike is running. He's using the outside a little bit here. John Lewis just doesn't look on tonight. I don't know.
Well, he may still be affected by that injury that he suffered up at the Canadian Championship a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it must be, Steve, because I know he can go a lot faster than this. He's usually a lot more aggressive than... I tell you, Mike Spider-Man looks very, very smooth.
Well, the only loss tonight has been to Frank Watson, and Frank is always a tough racer out here at Empire Speedway. The checkered flag in the win for Mike 111, Mike a Spider-Man Bloom.
And John Keogh's bike ran well the whole 4 laps, so apparently whatever was wrong with it, although I think John does travel with 2 bikes, so whatever was wrong with it, he's fixed, obviously, or he's riding a spare bike. I can't tell which, but he ran well. Doug Hood came in last in that race, but he's only 15 years old from Canada, and he's learning how to ride the small tracks also. So he's the Canadians, I tell you, they're making one heck of a dent here on American dominantry here at the track. They're John Dimitri's going extremely fast. Kehoe, Freddie Legault.
Larry Neal's improving.
Larry Neal, yeah. Larry Neal. I tell you, Larry goes real fast and he's extremely smooth, but I don't know, in my opinion, he just has to have a little bit more of a killer instinct. He's just such a nice person.
Well, speaking of the Canadian, we have Larry Neal out for this race in heat number 11. Also, Dan Painter scheduled to start, along with George Lewis, old man on the track tonight, I would say. And our final racer, Len Bennett, bike number 71. And Len is having some bike problems as he looks it over.
Yeah, Al didn't make it up. Len's brother, Al, he had to stay home and work the farm. They're farmers by trade. They own a farm and they work it themselves. And Len got to come up tonight, and Al had to stay home and milk the cows, I guess. I don't know what the deal is there, but...
Who do you give this race to? This is not a bad match, pretty well-matched field.
Yes, it is. Yep. I got to go with. Well, see, George gets a good gate. He's all right.
If George gets a good gate, I think I'll throw it to him. Larry Neal's working the 3rd slot as the gate goes up, and Larry Neal finds turn number 1 first.
Oh.
And Len Bennett ends up in the pipes between turns 1 and 2. He'll look over the bike and discuss as Larry Neal comes out of turn number 1. He is your leader with George Lewis falling back now on bike 48.
Yeah, Dan Painter's running 3rd. He's a fellow from Pittsburgh. He's going faster. He's going to hang in the track also. I tell you, Larry's smooth, though. He's just so smooth. If he could just move it up about a notch or 2, he'd be a contender, but he's riding a Westlake also, by the way. I'll put a little traction there and send him out by the wall. I know that's not what Larry wants to do.
Well, he's had some trouble coming out of turns before as he takes a checkered flag in the win in heat number 11. Larry's a guy who always looks good going in, but sometimes trying to hold that tight line all the way around, you can have a little problem now.
Well, that's the trouble that all the Canadians have. They're used to a lot bigger track. They race on quarter miles in Canada, and they just, there goes Lynn now. I guess he fell off. I didn't see him do anything bad to the bike. Just he's learning too. He needs a lot more experience, but he comes up every week, and he comes up on Tuesday night and practice. And now he's going to go straighten his forks here. See, it seems that whenever you tip over, you got to straighten your forks. So here we go with the next heat race.
Heat number 12 coming up. Len Bennett takes his bike back into the pits as we're looking at Dale Wakefield bring his bike on out.
Freddie Legault, Teddy Pierce, and Bobby Robinson. So
okay, we just saw Teddy Pierce race a little bit ago. This is heat number 12.
Yeah, that 4-valve seems to agree with Teddy Pierce. He seems to be going pretty fast. I tell you, Dale, in that last race after the fall, it didn't seem to affect him too much. He's back on track, and he ran, halfway efficient in the last race. So
Well, he laid there for a little while. He got right back up, so we'll see how he goes here.
Bobby's having trouble back there on the backstretch. I don't know. There's Pat Cliff giving him a hand. That just goes to show you the sportsmanship now. Bobby's Pat's competitor, and then there's Pat looks like they found something wrong, and Mark's going to run back and get it, or maybe he just needs a better push.
A tight-knit group they are, and they race every weekend.
Yeah.
See where they line up for heat number 12. Heat number 13 coming up, and then we'll be picking up a heat that we did not see earlier. We had some trouble on the start. That was Dale Wakefield and
Teddy Pierce is getting a push now, Jim, and Cricket's 2 out of the 4 bikes are on running. It's a humid night, and it does affect them. Both these bikes are being pushed to Jawas, and they do have problems with the magneto. If there's any moisture in the magneto at all, they won't spark. So, you know, Jawas do have some trouble. I know Bobby doesn't want to push this bike. He's about my age. I think he's even older than me. And I tell you, you only have 4 laps, and if you push the bike for 20 or 30 feet, that usually takes a couple of laps right out of your system. So,
well, I think that ought to be a training device.
Yeah.
Pushing bikes down the road to kind of get your wind up for the racing as it goes on, and it will go on here in just a little bit. We had a bike just go back into the pits.
I think what we should do here is send out the other race.
Yeah, who are we missing now?
Well, we're missing Bobby won't start, and Teddy Pierce's bike won't start. Teddy, I saw Dennis Pierce there, Teddy's father, take the bike off. They're probably going to put a spark plug in it. Sometimes a fresh plug will help.
A fine crowd out here at Empire Speedway, and we're taking a look at them right now for the East Coast Championship. This humidity is a factor tonight. We were just talking about that, and it is a factor in the track as well. Is the track setting up like you thought it would?
Just about, yeah. At the last intermission there, they went around with the hoses and kept the outside moist. So there should be a consistent passing groove on the outside throughout the night if anybody wants to take advantage of it. I tell you, tonight we don't have too many outside riders here. Freddie Legault, John Dimitri used to be an outside rider, but he's learned how to ride the inside. Bobby Robinson could go outside if he gets it going. John Tilton rides the outside, but he's out of it tonight with that crash earlier. So keeping the outside wet isn't really too much of a...
Sending Pat Cliff out. He is a runner in heat number 13.
Riding, doesn't look like his bike. Yeah, I guess it is. It looks like he went to the Spider-Man school of front number plates there. He has there's a family out enjoying the races here tonight.
So heat number 13 coming out right now with John Lewis, Pat Cliff. Bike number 27 is Pat Cliff. Bike number 81, John Dimitri. And bike number 68, Fred Legault. Heat number 13, just about ready to get underway.
We have John Dimitri out here. We got 2 Canadians. Pat Cliff, that's been going fast. John Lewis. Geez, you know, the drawer, how you line up positions, you pick a golf ball with either 1, 2, 3, or 4. And this is about the 2nd or 3rd time in a row that John's drew number 1. He must have that ball wired.
John Lewis will take the early lead, and John Dimitri takes the line.
Yeah, and there's Freddie working the outside. I know they like to race. These Canadians like to get on each other. Fred's working the outside for what it's worth. Good ride, Fred. I hope he makes it. He's going good.
And that takes some guts to do because it is loose up there. Now they can move inside and...
Boy.
Fred Legault drops it down as John Dimitri goes by on the inside. John Lewis now battling as they battle for the lead in turn number 3. The white flag ready at the start-finish line. Dimitri having his problems. And one more lap will follow you 2 meters around. Dimitri and Lewis tight as they come out of the backstretch. One more turn. Can he hold him off? John Dimitri, bike number 81.
It's going to be close. Oh, good ride. Boy, I really feel bad for Fred. I think it was the U.S.-Canadian team racing that Fred just had a real bad night. I don't know if it was that one or the week before. It was one of the TVs. Time that we had TV cameras here, and Fred just had one bad night. It seems to be shaping up the same way tonight for Fred. He made a terrific, fantastic move around Dimitri, he's going real fast tonight, and just used the outside, used the wetness, and just ran very, very well, and ended up
working so well on the loose stuff. And then he came down low and had his problem.
He should have stayed on the outside. But, you know, the theory is once you get around the rider, naturally the quick way around is the inside. So he did the right thing by moving down. I really don't know why he fell. It looked like just lack of concentration. And it's just really too big. Because I know Fred travels a long way. He depends, like most of the riders do, on making some money when he gets here because it's such a long trip for him. And especially the Canadian riders with the exchange rate, they like the American money. And I just feel real bad for Fred because he's a good competitor. And he finished second last week, by the way, in the Canadian Championship. Len Dillon, which is one of our local, not local riders, but he rides here every Saturday night, won the Canadian Championship. He is also from Canada. He broke his foot in Owego, New York, about a month or so ago, and that's why we haven't seen him here. And sawed the cast off the day of the race in Canada and went out and won the race. He was the defending champion, and Fred finished second. So Lenny, you know, being out of it for four weeks with a broken foot, he sawed the cast off himself and ended up winning the race.
So Len Dillon is always a tough competitor, and that is the race we were talking about earlier that John Lewis was injured at. So that could be one of the problems that John Lewis is having to face tonight. Bike number 47, who usually goes and travels faster than he has been tonight.
Yeah, he looks awful timid tonight. You know, like I said, I know John been going. He's won 2 handicap races here. I think one was on TV, and he's back on the 50-yard line now, and he's just a real aggressive, fast, up-and-coming rider, and he's just not on the stride tonight. He you know, I'm not trying to put him down or nothing, but I know he can ride faster than he is. That race in Canada, by the way, is, like I said before, it's a very, very big track. The riders here, we have no brakes. The bikes run on methanol. They get going. They average probably 55 to 60 miles an hour and get going maybe 70 down the straightaways, which is, you know, pretty good because the track is only about 200-300 yards around. In Canada, the track is a lot bigger, and they get up to speeds touching 100 and just a tad over 100. So you get off up in Canada, like, I don't know the circumstances behind John Lewis, but, you know, you get off up in Canada and you're in real trouble at those speeds.
John Dimitro very happy with his win in heat number 13. And we'll bring out another heat. Who have we here?
That's Larry Neal and Dale. I think this is the one before where none of the bikes would run.
We may be going back to heat number 3 at this point. Heat number 3, Dale Wakefield, Larry Neal. And, of course, that was the bike John Tilden hurt in heat number 3.
Yeah, so John will be coming out. We have Pat Cliff. Yeah. So I guess we just have 3 in this one, Steve. Which is a break because the points go 3-2-1. So at the very least, you're going to get a point out of this. So that's always a nice advantage.
I think that will be a help for Pat Cliff more than anybody else at this point.
No, what they're going to do, we spoke about this at the riders' meeting. Doug Hood is another Canadian. Is not really the alternate, but he's kind of the floater. And whenever we needed an extra rider to fill in, we're filling in with Doug Hood. He will only get 4 riders as of the other riders. Everybody will get 4 rides each. But Doug is the floater here, and so he'll take the place of John Tilden.
So we're picking up a race that we did not get off earlier. John Tilden had some problems in turn number 2, and will not finish out the evening.
Yeah, Dale just went over there to use one of the starters' flags to wipe his windshield.
We'll see Larry Neal, Dale Wakefield, Doug Hood, and Pat Cliff.
Yeah, Dale moved out of his number 1 spot. Doug slipped into it. Now there's a controversy over who drew the number 1 ball. There's only one ball that says number 1 in there, so okay, Doug decided he didn't actually draw number 1 and Dale's in there. I know Dale likes that number 1 spot. This will be a good one.
Wakefield and Neal. Larry Neal gets the line. He's working down the backstretch.
Larry is Larry, Mr. Smooth.
Larry Neal, bike number 47, the Canadian, putting the lead and extending it over Dale Wakefield, who's wrestling that bike and trying to pick up some ground.
That's my old bike that Dale's on. Now, Dale doesn't look too smooth tonight. He's having trouble going into 1. Larry's smooth, though. 1 lap to go.
Following the field out of turn number 4, Pat Cliff going wide there as we pick up Larry Neal down the backstretch. Larry Neal, a smooth ride, and he is really putting some distance between himself and the second place bike of Dale Wakefield. Larry Neal will take the win in heat number 3. Again, this is a heat we did not get off earlier in the evening because of an accident in turn number 2. We'll let Dale Wakefield pick up 2 points for second, and Pat Cliff a point for third. Your winner, Larry Neal, out of turn number 4. He comes, looking over the bike, switches off the fuel. Larry Neal, your winner in heat number 3. We'll be back for more racing action from Empire Speedway right after this.
For the finest leather in the land that was created by the hand, step up to Middle Earth Leatherworks, 732 South Cross Avenue on the 2nd floor.
We're back for heat number 12, racing at Empire Speedway, the East Coast Championship. Who are we waiting on here, John? Like 71?
No, 76 it looks like, Dale. And, the reason we're waiting for Dale is because he just raced in the previous heat race, so he's having back-to-back races, which is always tough physically, and you know, you have to fuel the bike, fuel and oil on the bike, which takes some time. You like to catch your breath, maybe wipe off your face shield, so that was the delay waiting for Dale.
Now, we were talking about Dale having problems in that earlier race. He had some trouble getting the back end around and throwing that bike into the type of turns that most of these riders make out here. Is that a bike problem, or do you think that's one of Dale's problems?
Yeah, anytime you have a crash like that. Boy, here's Freddie going for it now. I hope Fred's doing good.
Ready to go, smooth out of 4.
Anytime you have a crash like Dale did there, it usually takes you a race or two to get your mental attitude back up. I tell you, Teddy Pearson was showing that his running third. He's giving Dale a run for his money in second here. Fred's going real fast now. He's riding the inside. He's being a little conservative, which is fine because he has a lead.
And he takes the white flag from the starter as he works in turn number 1. Now the race for second widening up a little bit. Teddy Pierce trying to find a fast line as he
we got
outside.
Bobby Robinson moving in. Bobby just moved into third.
Well, Ted Pierce made a mistake there out of turn number 2 and got real wide.
I tell you, Bobby's not doing too bad for being away from it for over a year. I know exactly how it feels.
Fred Legault takes the win in heat number 12. And we'll be back for more heat racing from the Empire Speedway, the East Coast Championships on this Saturday night, right after this.
Introducing the Nighthawk S from Honda. We asked world champion Freddie Spencer to take it for a ride because what we find out on the track, you can't find out on the street. Freddie liked the way it handled, the way it accelerated, the way it stopped. In fact, Freddie liked the Nighthawk S so much, he never brought it back.
Sportman Center, Route 11, North Syracuse.
Heat number 15 ready to get underway. Empire Speedway, our East Coast Championships. And we have a look at some of the point standings as we've gone on through the night. Frank Watson is your leader. He has taken every race he's been in so far tonight. 9 points as your leader. A 3-way tie for second with Mike Spider-Man Bloom, Howie Oakton, and John Dimitri, all with 8 points right now. Heat number 15 on the track, and your defending champion, Howie Oakton, who is tied in second place with those other 2 riders, is out for this race. He'll be lining up in the second slot. Dan Painter out on bike number 4. Dale Wakefield, bike number 76, and the Canadian John Kehoe to the start-finish line. As they line up, heat number 15, we have 1, 2, 3, I think 4 more heat races to go, though I don't have a lineup for heat 18. I think we're racing 18 heats tonight.
Yeah, there was one extra race they put in there at the end, Steve, to give everybody 4 rides.
Dale Wakefield cleaning off the visor here as they get ready to go for heat number 15.
There's Howie on the pole again. Howie's another one that's picked number 1 quite a bit tonight also. Gets a real good start. Right where he wants to be on the inside of the track. Whoa, Kehoe put some traction there on the outside. That outside seems to be still very trackable.
Well, the outside has shaped up for racing better than we thought it would as the night has gone on. Kehoe still holding back in second, and it's still not quite as fast on the outside line.
No, he's trying the inside, but he's not going to pass Howie on the inside. He's got to go around the outside if he wants to get Howie.
Howie Oakton, bike number 50, sponsored by Sunkist as he comes out at turn number 4. The white flag and 1 more lap. John Kehoe is going to go back on the outside and try it there 1 more time, but he's got not a whole bunch of space to do it in.
This is the best I've seen Kehoe ride in a long time.
One more turn. Here they come to the start-finish line. It's going to be Howie Olton, bike number 50. And Kehoe tried, gave it all, but it wasn't quite enough.
I think Howie expected him to be on the outside. That's why Howie drifted to the outside there, expecting to take the path away from John Kehoe. But to Howie's surprise, Kehoe was on the inside, but it didn't work anyway. Howie held him off. Howie's a real tough rider on the inside.
Howie Olton takes 3 points for the win in heat number 15. Heat number 16 coming up. Oh,
so that puts the pressure on Dimitri and Bloom, because they have to win their heat races to stay in touch with Howie with his 11
right
points.
You are. That does give Howie
and here comes
a
Spider-Man
lead
now.
right now.
Yep.
He has 11 points, but again, Frank Watson with one last ride. And Frank Watson has been the man to beat this evening, as he is the only man to win every heat race he's been in to this point. Mike Spider-Man Bloom out for heat number 16. We'll also see Ted Pierce out on bike number 77.
George Lewis and Kevin Collins. Yeah. This should be a relatively easy one for Spider-Man, I think. Although Ted Pierce and Kevin's been giving them, been going pretty fast tonight, but I think Mike's a little bit above that test.
Ted Pierce shows a lot of poise for a 15-year-old.
He does. He has to be refined a whole bunch, though, to be a real competitor. But, at 15 years old, it's hard to refine anything, I guess. But he's doing real well. I know his father's been working on him. His father was a real good competitor. I raced against his father, and his uncle Jim there, he goes real fast, too. So he's got some good people talking to him. If he pays attention and listens, I think he can be a real good competitor down the road.
Is it tough for a rider who's so young at this point, who doesn't have the experience but has had such wonderful success so early on, to stay humble?
Well, I don't know. I know when I was young, you win a few races and you do get cocky. But it brings you down real quick when you fall off once or twice and you realize you're not really as fast as you think you are.
Getting ready for heat number 16 now. They're at the gate. The gate is up.
Spider-Man got a terrible start on that. He's going to have to get better starts than that if he wants to beat Frank tonight. He made a good move. He covered well. George left some open space for him there, and Spider-Man took advantage of it. I tell you, Kevin is running second here. Kevin hasn't been around too much this year either. He's been hurt. He's had some trouble getting his bike back together, and he's not doing bad.
Kevin Collins in a position right now that I would not expect to see him in, ahead of George Lewis and even Teddy Pierce.
Here goes Teddy. George is having a real bad night tonight, too. Teddy Pierce just got around him in third.
One more lap for Mike Spider-Man Bloom as we take him into turn number 3. His final lap and an easy win. That'll give him 3 points in heat number 16.
Yeah, he keeps pace with Howie Olton there, so now he has 11 points. So now the pressure's on John Dimitri to see if he can win and stay in touch. I tell you, I can see a runoff coming between Dimitri and John Lewis right now, the way, even though Dimitri's 8 points up.
We talked about runoffs earlier in the evening. That is the situation we're going to find ourselves in. Only 4 riders can make it into the final 4 races of the evening, and they race kind of a round-robin system in the final 4 races.
Yeah.
But as happens a lot, more than 4 riders will end up with enough points to make the final. So we have to kind of pick one.
While we're talking about that final 4, Steve, up until the final 4, when you come to the gate before your race, you pick a golf ball like we talked earlier with 1, 2, 3, or 4, 1 being the inside, 4 being the outside. When it comes down to the final 4 races of the evening, you draw 1 time, and say you pick 1. Okay, for that very first race, you're 1, and then the second race you move out to slot 2, slot 3, and slot 4. So everybody gets a shot at the inside position, which is the most favorable position, at least once during the 4 rides. So it's a very, very fair procedure as far as finding the top competitor of the evening. Everybody gets 4 rides and everybody gets a shot at it from a different spot on the line. So it's a very fair procedure, rather than just 1 race at the end and somebody gets lucky, gets a good gate, and they win the race.
Well, this is the East Coast Championship, and we are describing what's called a championship format. We're racing 18 heat events, 4 points, and then we take the top point getters and put them into 4 final races. It's not usually the way a program works out here at Empire Speedway. There is this type of racing, which is called scratch racing, because everybody starts at the start-finish line all even, and another type of racing called handicap racing. That is the way a usual program out here works. And if you've seen any of our other broadcasts, you've watched some handicap racing, And if you're out here ever on a Saturday night, you will see some very interesting racing indeed, because it allows riders who obviously aren't as good as some of the top competitors to be competitive in a very competitive situation, because they line up at different points behind the start-finish line. Again, we're not racing that type of format tonight, but it is another facet of speedway racing that hopefully you will see on this channel or at this racetrack in the future.
If you think it's exciting on the TV, you come out here and smell the methanol and just hear the noise, and it's exciting. So we have Doug Hood and George Lewis, Bobby Robinson, and Pat Cliff. This is a good one. Now it's George Lewis in front and Bobby Robinson on the outside. Two old-timers. Basically, they've raced together a lot. George a little more active than Bobby, and it's showing. George is out front, and he's doing a heck of a good job staying in front of Bobby, but Bobby's giving it a good run.
Well, George Lewis is a man who at least has been actively racing here for a little while, but Bobby Robinson coming by on the inside here.
George went in and didn't have right position, and he screwed up a little bit, and 1 lap to go. I tell you, this is a good race.
Bob Robinson on the inside, George Lewis, problems on the outside, as Pat Cliff has some problems in turn number 4. Here they come, one more turn, and Bob Robinson is going to try to find a line, but is not going to get the job done.
No. George has been riding a little bit more than Bobby, and therefore he held them off. It was a good race, though. I know George really wanted to probably win that one.
Coming back for more racing right after this. Empire Speedway action as we come out of turn number 4. Frank Watson is having a tough race right now. Really, against Fred Legault.
Yeah, Frank's got his work cut out for him. There is a bump and grind at the first turn there, and Frank got a bad start and bumped out of. Whoa!
And quite a spill in the front stretch as we follow Frank Watson and Fred Legault down the back. The bike okay, the rider okay, as they pull it off to the infield. White flag for Frank Watson. I guess he found his line there.
Yeah. Well, Frank's on a hot streak. He's won every race. He probably didn't need to win this one to be in the Final Four, but he always liked to go in the Final Four with a clean sweep, which is what he did. I didn't know if we got that crash on...
I think we missed a little bit of it.
But that's exactly what we were talking about before, Steve, with the kill switches, because that bike was hurtling through the air, and boy, if that bike is running with the back tires spinning around, somebody could really get hurt. So the kill switch kills the bike and consequently makes it a little bit more controllable. It's just bouncing around and not running. Well, Frank's got a clean sweep there, so he's one of our Final Four.
Frank Watson comes from behind, too. Like you said, he had a real bad hole shot coming out.
I think we missed that. We were just coming back from commercial on that restart, on that start there, and it was...
well, he found himself in a position he doesn't usually. It's on the outside with 2 riders inside of him, and having to work that position, he kind of took a while for the whole field to get sorted out. And once that happened, then Frank knew what he had to do, set out to do it, and did the job.
Well, it was a situation where everybody got a good start. Fred had number 1. He got a good jump. And I think what happened was Frank has a tendency, and if he has a weakness in the starts, it's a tendency he has to wheelie off the line. That's when the front wheel is off the ground. And, you know, it shows that you're getting a good jump in a good traction situation, but you also have a little less control, naturally, because the front wheel's off the ground. And Frank has a real bad tendency, if that's what it is, to wheelie off the line. And anytime you wheelie off the line, it's good for half a second, which doesn't sound like much, but, you know, when everybody's really going for it, a half a second is a long time. So that's what happened there, and the 2 competitors he was with got good hole shots, and he ended up 3rd coming out of 2, which is not the place you want to be. But, you know, being Frank Watson and having the track wide and being consistent tonight, he got around the 2 riders and ended up winning. So
the track is wide tonight, and we're going to see some dynamite action as we move on closer to our finals tonight. Empire Speedway, the East Coast Championship, and we will see some dynamite racing, I'm sure.
Yes, we will. I think there's a short break here now. I guess that was the last race, and we're down to our Final Four. Waiting for the scorekeepers to add up the points now.
We're going to send it back to the scorers. We'll look for some point totals for you, see if we have any runoffs here, and we'll be back for more racing action. Finals in our East Coast Championship, Empire Speedway, right after this.
For the finest leather in the land that was created by the hand, step up to Middle Earth Leatherworks, 732 South Cross Avenue on the 2nd floor.
Kevin, Kevin Collins is your leader. This is the consolation race for some of our top finishers who did not make the finals. Dale Wakefield working an outside groove, and he's going to continue on the outside as he moves in turn number 3. Kevin Collins riding probably the best ride of his night at this very moment as he crosses the start-finish line, and Dale Wakefield still working that outside line. John Lewis trying to make us some distance. It's Dale Wakefield. Watch him on the outside. Zoom, zoom, zoom. But he's got a little problem there in turn number 4 as the white flag comes out. And he's going to hold the line. An exciting race as Wakefield comes out of 2. Your new leader, Kevin Collins, falls back to second, and he'll try to fight back on the inside. Here we come out of turn number 4, the checkered flag. I don't know. I hate to call that one. John Leo, give me your expert opinion.
I think it was Dale.
Looking at the scorers here. That was a very close finish out of turn number 4, a dynamite race.
Oh, but they gave it to Collins. It was a heck of a good race, yeah.
Kevin Collins takes the win. He had lost the lead on the last lap as Dale Wakefield moved to the outside and worked that groove successfully.
I think I would have called it a dead heat, Steve. It looked that close.
Well, I tell you, we have a pretty good angle right here from our booth, and looking straight down on the start-finish line, I really didn't want to call it. I just looked at it, my mouth hung open for a little while, and I figured, well, I'll wait till they stop racing and ask John what he thinks.
Let the referee call it.
That's right. When in doubt, let somebody else take responsibility.
That's right.
No, that's true, because it was a very close race, and really the finest race that Kevin Collins has run all night.
And Dale, too. Dale put together on the outside there. You know, I walked around a little bit when you were doing the rider interviews. I walked around the track to see what the condition was, and the outside is still very, very moist. Obviously, Dale ran outside very efficiently, and which should help, and I'm sure. This is another thing. I'm sure the riders in the Final Four, Dimitri and Watson and Howie and Mike Bloom were watching that race to see if the outside was workable, and in fact it is. So that was not only did it help Dale with his, trying to win the race, but it helped the other guys to see that it is definitely a factor to be outside. So it was good. It was one heck of a good race, I tell you.
The width of the groove tonight is very impressive to me at this point. I've seen it to the point where only the inside has worked, and I think the moist conditions we've had here in Central New York for the last couple of days have really made us, or given us a track that we can really use. We had a chance to talk to some of the riders before we go into these final 4 races, and we're going to talk at this very moment to Mike Spider-Man Bloom. Mike Spider-Man Bloom with me on the infield right now. Mike, we're going into the final 4 races of the evening, and we want your thoughts against the likes of Howie Oakton, who's the defending champ, and Frank Watson, of course, the Canadian John Dimitro. What are you looking to do here?
Well, it's going to be a tough race, but if I get the whole shot and don't make any mistakes from the pole, I might be able to pull it off. It's going to be a hard race.
Is it a disadvantage having to line up on every position for the 4 races?
No, it just makes it more fair. People on the pole get the more advantage.
Well, Mike, you've been racing consistently all night. You had a heat against Frank Watson earlier in the evening, and he defeated you pretty handily. What's it going to take to beat Frank specifically?
The gate. It's the gate. No mistakes at all.
How is your gate tonight? I saw you a little slow in one heat race. Is it going to take some time? Have you thought about it since then?
Yeah, it's gonna take something. I'm gonna have to pull it out of my hat, no doubt.
Mike Spider-Man Bloom, good luck this evening, and we'll see how you do in these final 4 races of the evening.
Thank you.
John Leal, we are back for the final 4 races of the evening. We're lining up for the very first event of that final 4 races.
This is it.
Cross off all your point totals. We'll be counting points again, and the top point getter through these 4 races will be your East Coast champion. We're ready to go for heat number 1 is Howie Oakton.
Howie's in the tapes again. Howie's going to try to get the roll.
Well, he's got the outside line. He's slot number 4, so he needs the shot on the start. And these guys are really keyed up.
Yep, this is it.
Mike Bloom on the inside. Frank Watson gets the shot in turn number 1.
Frank timed it perfectly.
And Frank did not need that as he lays it down in the first turn. He comes off the track.
Boy, that's
Mike Bloom. Mike Bloom, Mike Spider-Man Bloom, as he moves down the backstretch. Howie Oakton second right now. And Frank Watson is disgusted on the infield with that slide into turn number 1.
Well, this sets up for a very interesting mathematical finish here because Frank will get no points for this race. This is a surprise. I picked Frank to win. Spider-Man's obviously going to win the first one, Howie second, and Dimitri third. And now the pressure's on. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Frank has to win the next 3.
Mike Bloom, out of turn number 4, he takes the win. And you're right, this is a surprise, a real surprise. We'll give Mike Bloom 3 points for the win. Howie Oakton picks up 2, and Dimitro picks up 1. Frank Watson comes up with the goose egg.
What I think they should have done there, Steve, was red flag the race and put Frank back 10 yards. That's the procedure we had been using throughout the season. And if I was Frank, I'd be pretty upset about it. Although Frank is a very passive person, he probably won't say anything. But you know, that's the procedure. This procedure should have been, in my estimation, to stop the race and put Frank back 10 yards.
Is that just the way the finals work, or is that...
No, that's the procedure we've been using all year. I've refereed a few races when we're not doing a TV thing, and that's the procedure we use. You have to put the rider. Frank obviously caused the stopping the race of falling down. Therefore, he is penalized 10 yards, and that's the procedure we had been using. So now... It's little mathematics now. If Frank wins the next 3, assuming he can win the next 3, that'll give him 9 points, 3, 6, 9. Spider-Man is already 3 points up on him. So, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Any of you people out there, pencils and paper, you can figure out any one of 100 ways that who can win or lose.
It could force a final race-off between Mike Spider-Man Bloom and Frank Watson if they do end up going and Frank wins the next 3 races. We had a chance to talk to Frank in the infield before these 4 final races, and he was the man to beat. We'll have a talk with him right now and see what his thoughts are. The thoughts were going into the racing.
Frank Watson, bike number 20. Congratulations, you had a perfect night so far tonight. The final 4 races, what are you looking for?
Well, looking to get some good starts out there now, Steve. The track has gotten a little bit of a groove. Some of the starting spots have gotten slipperier than what they were in the night originally, and we've been working with gearing with the tire a little bit. It's going to be a matter of who gets a start, really, and to see who gets the brakes after that.
We saw you having to work the outside groove in that final heat race you were in. Is that a position you think you're going to have to find yourself in these final 4 races?
Yeah, sooner or later you're going to have to find yourself on the outside. There's going to be somebody's going to get in front of you. It's inevitable. You're going to have to move out there one time or the other. And I was fortunate that I got a chance to try it in that last race and see how it's going to work. I just hope that it can continue to work as good if I get behind in the next races.
Frank, good luck. You've got Howie Oakton, the defending champion, John Dimitro, and Mike Spider-Man Bloom to beat. And we'll see how you fare in these 4 races.
Yeah, it should be good. I'd like to take this time, if I could, to thank Johnny Leo and the Carlisle Tire and Rubber Company for their support here tonight and throughout the year. They do a fine job in helping the riders. Surefire Distributing Company also, and for the New Channels people for being here, doing a great job. Thanks.
Very good. Good luck, Frank.
To racing action at Empire Speedway. John, you want to explain what's happening here?
Well, during the break there, I went down and talked to the referee, and how he'd been running all year is that if one rider goes down in a scratch situation, which is what we're in now, in fact, if you think back early in the evening, Howie Oakton, one of the very first races, did a wheelie off the line and crashed. And we let them start another race, and Howie got back into it. And by rights, that's the same thing that happened to Frank. He slid out by himself. He was the cause of the stopping of the race. The race should have been red flagged, with Frank being put back 10 yards and then rerun, and they didn't. They let the race go 4 laps. So from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand, they're going to just disregard that race and run it again after these next 3. So that's the way I understand it.
So this is actually the second heat.
But it's actually the first one that counts, as a matter of fact. Not trying to be confusing here, but you know, that's the rules we're running by, and it's only fair. Especially, you know, when it comes down to these last 4 races, there's a lot of money and prestige on the line, and you know, that's the way it should be.
Well, the whole idea for the final 4 races is to give everybody an equal chance, and running by the rules is one of those. Howie Oakton's going to line up on the inside this time. Mike Bloom in the second slot. Again, the first race it's going to count because we will run that first race over again. 3 abreast as they go into turn number 2. Everybody's tight. Howie Oakton goes over in turn number 2.
All right, here we go. Now this is exactly the same situation.
And the red flag will come out. They'll try it again. That was so tight in turn number 2. How can you not get together in a situation like that?
It's rough, and like we said, the groove is pretty wide tonight, but not when you try to fit 4 motorcycles in. And I hope Howie isn't hurt. He's laying down over there. That's his brother on the right-hand side, and I don't know who's that on squatting down next to him, but that's his brother there.
Looks like Howie might have gotten a little piece of bike there as he kind of went over the...
I think he caught the handlebars going off the high side. Again, like we said, when you go off the high side, you get hurt. Howie's got quite a bit of fans in the stands here. They're all concerned also for his welfare there.
Well, he moved off his own power out of the groove, and they are looking him over right now.
And we have been pretty lucky this evening. Nobody's been hurt very badly, and I can't imagine that Howie's in too bad a shape right now. It wasn't that bad a fall. He stayed up for a little while, and he probably just caught a piece of the handlebars and maybe in his leg or in his hip, and that'll leave a big bruise tomorrow morning.
It's easy for you to say, Steve.
That's true. Not having been on one myself.
I've been down on the ground. No, I agree with you. I think it's just he probably just get the wind knocked out of him. It looks like they're working on his bike right now, so it's always a good sign. That the first thing you know if a race is all right is if he asks you how the bike is, and obviously that's what they're checking. So I guess we're gonna have a little break here while they tend to Howie and look at the bikes, and
we'll figure out how they're gonna score this thing.
Fred Sports Motors, Yamaha City, your Yamaha dealer of Central New York, now celebrating our 20th anniversary. We've expanded our Erie Boulevard showroom to include over 100 motorcycles on display. We've got the bike you crave at a price you'll love. Yamaha, engineered for performance, designed for attention. Also mopeds and three-wheelers, plus free riding lessons for buyers. Check out our selection at Fred Sports Motors, Erie Boulevard East, and Yamaha City, Brewerton Road, Mattydale, across from Strike and Spare Lanes.
Empire Speedway finals action. You've watched one race on tape, and we don't want to confuse anybody, but we do have to explain what has happened. Frank Watson went down in that race, and it did not count. Since then, we've had a chance to run the first race of the evening for the finals, and Frank Watson did take that race. Can you explain why we did what we did and where we are at this point, John Leo?
Well, what the rule says, and what we've been using here at Empire Speedway is if one rider goes down, we stop the race and penalize the rider 10 yards for stopping the race. And Frank fell down, and they let the race continue, which wasn't fair.
We're ready for the second final of the evening. Everybody's tight as they work into turn number 1. Frank Watson got a bad start, but he certainly picks it up on the inside as he moves into turn number 3.
And he's going to have a heck of a time getting around Dimitri because he's riding real well on the inside.
John Dimitro, your leader right now, and he is Mr. Smooth as he goes down
Frank
the
now. He'll get him right now. Give him a little nudge. Oh, it didn't work.
Frank Watson with problems.
Good race. He actually run into each other here. Run over. Dimitri gave him a little room there. Frank will get him coming out of 4.
Dimitro trying to make himself as large as possible. He takes it into turn number 1 with the lead. Frank Watson is now working on his second consecutive final race this evening as he takes Dimitro. Howie Elton falls back, and Frank Watson takes the win in final number 2. John Dimitro very happy with that second place finish. Frank Watson with 6 points now in the finals. John Dimitro with 3, and Mike Spider-Man Bloom with 3 points. Now let's get back to where we were going with the scoring. Frank Watson has set himself up to the man to beat. He was in kind of a bad position after he had lost the turn there and went down in race number 1. But as we say, because he went down, the rules say, and we have been consistent with that all night, that we start the race over, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, if anybody remembers, the very first or second race of the evening, Howie Elton wheelied off the line and fell down, and we stopped the race. In fact, we even ran a race in between to give Howie a chance to get his bike together. You know, we're just trying to be fair, trying to be consistent, and keep everybody, you know, in the hunt. And it's just there's no favoritism or anything else. Frank is the track champion, and you would think that there'd be some politics there, but there isn't. Frank fell down. The rule says one rider down, we stop the race, and he gets penalized 10 yards, and that's just the way it is, Steve.
That's where we stand right now. Frank Watson is your leader in these finals at this point. John Dimitro ran a fine race. We had a chance to talk to the Canadian before the finals started, and here's what he had to say. John Dimitro, our lone Canadian in the finals tonight. Mr. Smooth, really, you were racing quite well. Are you pleased with your performance so far?
Yeah, I'm having a pretty good night. The track's working, and the bike's working super. So far, I'm happy. I want to see how I'm going to do in the finals now.
What is it going to take against the likes of Frank Watson, Mike Spider-Man Bloom, and Howie Elton to get you where you want to be in these final 4 races?
It's going to take a lot of work. Hopefully, I can get the gate a couple of times. That's going to help a lot the way the track is tonight. Just get out front and try to stay there.
Have you been happy with your starts?
Yeah, I've had super starts all night. I've been trying a new way of starting, and it's working. Like, it's got me just about every ride.
Well, I certainly hope it continues to work. You've been working in the inside line really well. We've been talking about it up in the booth, and we'll see how you do in these final 4 races.
Yeah, hopefully the final 4. Like, I got tricked out Carlisle tire on, and she's grabbing super, so I got no problems getting power to the ground. It's just a matter of staying ahead of everybody and getting around the guys in front of you.
That is the name of the game. Good luck, John Dimitro.
Okay, thank you.
We're ready for our third race of the finals. Empire Speedway East Coast Championship action. We've got Frank Watson with 6 points right now, and at the start of these finals, I don't think that's a position he expected to find himself in at this point.
Well, yes and no. He's been running consistent, you know, to 6 points, about where I figured he'd be. The thing that hurt in that last race was Spider-Man finished third, and they let Dimitri slip in there for second. So, well, that kind of puts Spider-Man out of it. I mean, even if he wins and Frank's consistent with a second or a third, the worst they could do is a tie. So the thing that hurt Spider-Man was the fact that he let Dimitri sneak in there for second, although John Dimitri was running pretty quick tonight.
I don't think Mike Spider-Man Bloom is a very happy man at this moment.
No, there was a controversy there in that first race, and I really don't blame him for being upset. But I think somewhere between here and Pennsylvania and the way home tonight, he'll feel that it was the right rule, the right decision to make.
And when he finds himself in that position, he will be glad that the decision goes his way. It's Dimitri, Watson, and Bloom. Frank Watson has his winning way as he takes the line out of turn number 4.
Dimitri's running very well on the inside.
Mike Spider-Man Bloom still running second, and he really needs some points here. This is going to put it out of reach, and Frank Watson can take the win in this final number 3. And Frank Watson, an easy ride right now. Dimitri and Bloom. Howie Oakton with problems in turn number 4. He's going to stay outside. We finished the lap, so we're not going to stop the race as the white flag comes out for Frank Watson. One more lap to go.
I hope Frank doesn't think that was the end of the race with the white flag. Now he's racing again. Frank was looking back there like the race was over.
Frank Watson.
I think, Steve, I honestly think that Frank thought that on a white flag lap the race was over because he slowed down and he saw Spider-Man coming up like it was going for it. Now he's counting the laps to Spider-Man now, and Spider-Man says, no, that was 4 laps.
Well, he won it anyway. I don't think you can have too much of any problem with that. We could always play the tape back and see it. I wasn't really counting. I was just kind of watching the leaders.
I wasn't counting either. It seemed like 4 laps to me. It could be 5. I've even started some races. I've just about done everything on this racetrack. Started races, been a referee, raced on the track, and sometimes, you know, you get engulfed in a race or whatever, and you miss a lap or 2.
Howie Oakton is in turn number 4. That's the man you're looking at right now. He has not had very good luck at all. We had a chance to talk to him and get his thoughts on these final 4 races, the defending champion, and we did talk to him before these final races. Here's what he had to say. Howie Oakton trackside, you're the man with something to prove tonight because you are the defending champion. What's it going to take to defend that championship this evening?
It's going to take a real clean gate shot and a real consistent line against these 3 riders.
Well, Frank Watson has been the man to beat all evening. He has taken every heat he's been in, and he's really going to be posing you a real problem in these 4 races.
Yeah, he's going to be a real problem. I'm going to have to make sure I get out the gate real good and just hold the best line I can.
How's your bike been running?
Fantastic.
So no complaints about any of the machinery at all?
No complaints at all.
Have you been able to work the track the way you've wanted to?
Fantastic. I got a new tire donated by Carlisle tonight, and it's working fine.
Well, I certainly hope you're set up to do what you got to do, and we'll wish you the best of luck in defending your championship this evening.
Thank you very much.
Howie Oakton, bike number 50. Ready for the final race of the evening, and John Leal, it's academic. Frank Watson really has been racing fine tonight. He has had the line. He's had the races when he's wanted them. He had a little bad luck in that first race, but the rulings went in his favor, and he has 9 points right now and an insurmountable lead over the second-place rider of Mike Spider-Man Bloom.
Well, we have to think about the second-place finish here now. I don't know. I don't have the points in front of me, but it might be close between Spider-Man and John Dimitri.
I believe Mike Bloom has 5 points and John Dimitri has 4 points.
Well, so if Dimitri can stay in front of Spider-Man in this last race, then they'll be tied. I don't know if we'll have a runoff for that. We'll probably just call it a tie for second and let it go at that. But yeah, my prediction held up, Steve. I don't want to rub it in, but this is my second prediction in a row that I've forecasted. It's come through the U.S. over Canada, though that was a fairly easy prediction, and really tonight was too. You know, Frank's just been going so fast. So though anything can happen, you know, like malfunction or whatever.
Well, like we say, Frank Watson has 9 points. Right. He has lived up to his name, Fast Frank.
Well, we should make a note here, Steve, is that this is the rerunning of the very first race, which was Frank fell. Therefore, Frank will be penalized 10 yards and start on the 10-yard line. So,
okay, the race to watch is between Mike Bloom and John Dimitri as they line up and are getting ready to go. They're off. Dimitra gets the line into turn number 2.
Yeah, Spider-Man's underneath, though. He'll get him.
And a good line as he works into turn number 3. John Dimitro goes way out wide, but he keeps a handle on it. And it looks like Mike Bloom is going to finish in second spot tonight. Frank Watson trying to make it exciting here as we work in turn number 3. He's working
a good
inside.
race. Right here. They're going to go to handlebar to handlebar going in.
This is Speedway Racing, and Frank Watson holds on as he lays tight on that inside groove.
Frank didn't want it to be any split. He wanted to show that he could beat Spider-Man fair and square, and he did.
Mike Bloom having problems right now. He is still running second. Frank Watson takes the final race, the academic race. He was already the winner, but he does take the final of the evening, and he'll finish with 12 points, and he is the East Coast champion for 1984.
They should give Frank the flag on this. The fans, he's a fan favorite. They should like him.
It's very interesting for a man who wins so consistently to be so popular, because usually when you see somebody take that checkered flag night after night after night, you start rooting for the underdog a lot. But Frank is a real nice guy.
There's Frank taunting the fans now with the flag. He likes to do that.
Frank Watson, as he comes out of turn number 4, he is your champion, your East Coast champion. To the start-finish line, Mike Bloom a little distraught and a little upset with the way things went tonight, because he's always a hard charger. And he's walking over to his fans right now. We'll be back to wrap up the evening for you and talk about what's going on here at Empire Speedway right after this.
For the finest leather in the land that was created by the hand, step up to Middle Earth Leatherworks, 732 South Cross Avenue on the 2nd floor.
Frank Watson, hand in air, he waves to the crowd. He's been presented the trophy. He is the winner tonight. Mike Spider-Man Bloom, who we talked about, the man who had the most to move by the ruling early on in the finals, walked over after the racing and did the sportsmanlike thing, shook Frank Watson's hand.
Yes, I think he even went a little further than that. I think they hugged, because it's a very close fraternity, and Spider-Man knows that he was beat, and he rode his best, and Frank just beat him.
Frank Watson has been fast all night long, and Mike Bloom has put up a valiant fight as the night has progressed. It has been a very exciting night to watch, and the finals, well, they weren't as close as I would have liked them to have been, but then again, we saw some fine Speedway riding.
Yep, it certainly was. I'd like to, the people watching on TV, the crowds have been getting bigger here. I'll tell you, if you come out and just spend an evening out here, it's very inexpensive to come out. They have some good food, and I think early in the evening they have a promotion where they have quart of beer, which is always nice, I guess, to get you in the mood. But to smell the methanol and to get out of here and you can meet the riders, everybody's very friendly. You can roam through the pits before the races, after the races, and sit on the bikes and see what a Speedway bike looks like, and physically meet the riders and talk to them and find out, why they do it. And it's a great night of family entertainment, and I'd just like to see more people come out here, because I know as an ex-rider, the more people in the stands, the faster you want to go, and you can come out and pick your favorite and have a good time.
It is very exciting racing. Go ahead.
I'd like to thank you, Steve, tonight. I like working with you, and I'd like to thank Channel 13 also. Thank you very much.
Okay, John Leal, we had an exciting night of racing out here at Empire Speedway. We're out here every Saturday night racing. We saw a special kind of racing called handicap racing. So if you want to check that out, come on out. It is very accessible, and all these riders are very friendly, so if you want to meet one of them, come on out. Empire Speedway, it's been a pleasure being here tonight. John Leal, Steve Stiles from Empire Speedway for New Channels, Cable 13. Enjoy, and hopefully we'll see you out here some weekend.